Hello. Okay, let's go over it real quick. I saw a question out there. Um, how is it that someone can be eligible for both SSDI, which is Social Security Disability Insurance, and SSI, which is Supplemental Security Income, the welfare program from the federal government, both of which are handled by the SSA, and both of which provide benefits if you're disabled, as they define it. But there's different requirements, right? As you probably know, SSI is if you are poor enough as defined by the SSA, and that concerns having low enough resources, as well as low enough income or no income. SSDI doesn't care about your resources, and it doesn't care about income except any that you work for could then exceed an amount you're able to claim you're disabled while still receiving. Okay. So when could there be both? There's always that big confusion about whether I should file for SSI or not. If your resources are so high and you're not about to be willing to spend them down to nothing, and I don't blame you if you're going to have SSDI coming your way, I too wouldn't, spend down to get SSI because your SSD is going to wipe it out once those months kick in, assuming you prevail on your disability claim. So it's important that you know how much your SSDI amount will be if you're filing. And you can find that out before you file by going to ssa.gov, finding the, SSA My Account, and getting into your own account. And there is an estimate there given as to what your disability amount would be should you be found disabled now. Obviously, that's going to be a little ballpark because you might be found disabled next year, not this year, or, in 6 months. But that's how you can get a ballpark. If that amount is, sufficiently over the SSI amount for that year, the maximum SSI amount, you're not going to be eligible for SSI for any months if you're found disabled for any months that you get the SSD. And therefore, because there is a limited window that you would otherwise anyway be able to be eligible for SSI, and I'll explain that in a minute, you probably wouldn't want to apply for SSI. Number one, you're not going to prevail because you have those countable resources above. And when I say countable resources, obviously that's any cash in the bank, that's 401ks, things that you are allowed to access now, even if you have to pay a penalty. Real estate, unless you live in it and on it, that would count. So you can own a home and live in it, and that does not count as a resource. You can have one car, that won't count as a resource, but if you have a second car or a motorcycle also in your name, bingo. But in any event, if you have resources and you don't plan on getting rid of them, SSI is not going to be your ball game. And particularly if you're going to be getting SSDI anyway, the SSI, let's say you didn't have the resources, however, so you will be getting the SSDI should you apply for SSI also. There's that 5-month window from the month that you apply, they say that you were disabled, meaning the established onset date that they later say they found you disabled as of. That may or may not be the date that you alleged. It could be after that. In theory, it could be before that, but we don't really see that too much. There's 5 months that you're not payable for SSDI because there's the waiting period. So if you know that you don't have the resources that would boot you, and that it's possible that those 5 months, had you had if you had the SSI application in, would be you'd be eligible for the SSI because you're not getting the SSDI and you have no other income, then that's feasibly almost $5,000 that you're leaving on the table by not filing. But again, if you know you have the resources, don't bother. Remember, it's 2,000 in countable resources for a single person, 3,000 for a person who's married. You might be interested in applying for that SSI. Now, if they find an established onset date, that's way after you applied for both, you could very well be getting the SSI. If there is an established onset date that is way before you actually put in your application, because as you know, SSDI can have a retro date, then you probably won't be eligible for SSI because the SSI application goes in now and they found you disabled back then. But for the many, many times that they find you disabled, but not on the date you alleged, SSI could be at least $5,000, almost $5,000 that you're leaving on the table potentially. So, it's something to think about. But again, then there's some people who are going to get both forever. And those are the people that put in for both, and their SSDI, maybe due to a less than robust work history. They may have worked part-time their whole life. Maybe they were raising a family. Maybe they just didn't work because they were loaded and didn't have to. Everyone has a different story. But for those people, if their SSDI amount earned, and again, you can go to ssa.gov/my account before you apply, they will tell you what your estimated disability amount is. I believe after you apply, they don't let you have access to that. I'm not sure why. It'd be nice if it could still be seen. At least it would be some sort of ballpark or an idea. But if your SSDI amount is going to be under the SSI max amount that's given for that year, and it's, you technically have 20 uncounted dollars from that because that's considered unearned income, your SSDI. So maybe throw $20 on top of the SSI amount for that year. And if your SSDI is equal to or above that, you wouldn't be eligible for SSI for all of those months that you get the SSDI. So it's something to think about. One thing people sometimes think about is, well, I could get about $20 of SSI because my SSDI is almost there, but it's not totally. Do you want to take the SSI $20 a month, or is the hassle of being on SSI too much? Something to think about, because SSI, they do have the thumb on your pulse. You have to every if you inherit, if you win the lottery, if you gamble, if anything that comes into your possession, that you have, it could be a nice gift from somebody, is going to impact whether you would do that $900 in SSI, or in this case, that $20 of SSI. So you're going to be always having to do the reporting and staying on top of it. That's stuff you don't have to do when you're on SSD, because that's insurance benefits. You have those whether you're loaded or not, whether someone gave you a gift of a car or not, or, grandma sent you $5,000 for Christmas. So some people will refrain from SSI if their SSDI is that close. They don't want to deal with the hassle. Now, of course, if what you need is Medicaid, and if your state requires that you have the SSI to be on Medicaid, and I don't follow all those requirements, so that's up to you to figure out, they might still do the SSI. But so you see, there's many different aspects to this, whether you want the SSI or not. Obviously, if the SSI is going to be hundreds of dollars, or 100 or 50, it might be worth your, definitely worth your while, because your SSDI is so low. So some people don't have any SSDI, so the SSI is the only thing, and of course they're going to go for it. Some people have the SSDI, but it's low enough where the balance, if you have $700 in SSDI and SSI is $914, that's $214 potentially, plus the $234 of SSI that you get to top off the SSDI. You just have to follow the SSI rules every single month. But $214 when you're living on $700 might be something, worthwhile. So all personal choice. Okay. If you're getting like an allowance from mom and dad of $500 a month, you're not, that would boot you out of the SSI, right? So maybe you wouldn't want the SSI, or maybe mom and dad are like, no, take the 220 from SSI, and we're not going to pay, we're not going to give you an allowance anymore. Everyone's lifestyles are different. But so it's all things you have to think about, because every dollar you get from somebody else on a regular basis is going to be a dollar you're not going to get from SSI. So anyway, it comes from one place or the other, right? I hope that helps explain. I don't know. Let me know. You could get both, though, if your SSDI is low enough. All right. Bye, guys.